Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Canty, and this is another episode of Living Enlightened Every Day. And today I have a very special guest with me, Michael Mirdad. He has been changing people's lives for over 40 years. So stay tuned to meet him. I'm Elizabeth Canty, and I am dedicated to helping people love their life and live their passion by integrating spirit, mind, and body. And guess what? Michael Mirdad is too. He's been changing people's lives for over 40 years and is the author of over 10 books, including The Dark Night of the Soul, Creating Fulfilling Relationships, and my personal favorite, You're Not Going Crazy, You're Just Waking Up. Michael's work focuses on soul level healing, spiritual mastery, creating healthy relationships, and awakening the Christ consciousness, our divine nature. Welcome, Michael. I'm so glad you're here. We've just had some great conversations. And I'm going to ask right now that you just tell people where you are now. I know you're in Sedona, and tell us the name of your center there where you teach and heal and practice.
Yes, I'm in Sedona. I serve as the spiritual leader at the Global Center for Christ Consciousness. And a short version of that story, Sedona is, by so many people's standards, thought to be such a magical place. And it is. It's also intense because of the vortex here. It really does magnify things.
Mm.
So someone can have no background in spirituality or healing and come here and they hear a voice and something amazing happens. It's magical. Other people might seem to be very spiritual, well on the path, and yet for them, what might need to happen is not just a magical voice of some kind. It might be inner issues, emotional stuff that kind of gets magnified. So it's a very interesting place. I say interesting, you know what that means. Challenging to some people. But the short version of the story for me is I've been touring and teaching for, decades, and but it was always traveling internationally, nationally. Like I would say on average, maybe it got to the point where 6 weeks on tour, 1 week home, 6 weeks on tour, 3 weeks on tour, sometimes a weekend home. It was ongoing for a long time that I've been doing that. And I saw no end in sight because this is what I am. I'm a teacher. This is what I do, but it's who I am. As you know, that bridge you cross where you think you're doing something. I rescue animals. I do this. I'm a nurse. I'm a mother. Whatever. There's the doings. There's a shift that when we realize this is who I am, not just what I do. And we think everybody would have that as obvious insight, but it's not. There's an integrated moment where wow, this is the way I think, feel, express, and so on. So that's I was always on tour, and on tour, most cities I would go to once or twice a year. The cities that I went to, and Sedona was one of them. So the short version is I came to Sedona to do one of my annual visits here, and I usually do a Sunday talk if they have a sacred service, a center for living, religious science, unity, those kinds of yoga centers. So I did a Sunday talk. Usually it's followed by an afternoon workshop. So I sat down. I had been here before, but I sat down and I heard a voice that said, they're going to ask you to be their spiritual leader. And I thought, wow, I mean, okay, but that's kind of worthless because I'm on tour. I have a life. I live in, I have a retreat in Washington State that was gorgeous, and so there's none of that insight. So I thought, okay, well, thank you, Spirit, for telling me something that's not going to happen. And I did my talk, and then a board member approached me and said, and it was a unity at that time, but they were in major conflict. So I said, they asked me, would you be interested in it? I said, no. I said, that's weird. I heard a voice, but so I guess this is you asking me, which confirms that the voice was that you were going to ask me, but the answer is no, just like I told God. And so I swear I did a workshop when it was over. Another board member, hey, would you consider being? And I said, did the other person talk to you? But they said, no. I said, this is interesting, but no, But I agreed to sit with their board and talk to them. I said, I'm really honored. I have a life. I have a retreat center, home, and a retreat. I'm on tour. I'm scheduled for a year or two. I can't just stop everything. But, and I do believe in this, in honor of what's happening and the magic of the moment, I'm going to keep an open mind.
Mm.
That's all. I went home. I called a realtor just to see, like, if I put my house, I mean, it's a retreat. Who's buying retreats? And come on. So I just said, I'm just, and the realtor, I swear to God, said, "Is this Michael Mirdad?" And I went, "Yes." She goes, "Oh my God, I could tell by your voice because I've heard you online." And she said, "I'm reading your book." And then she said, "And you know what? It's changed my life." It was the You're Not Going Crazy book, I think. And she said, "It changed my life." And she said, "You know what I enjoyed most?" I'm going, "What?" She said, "I had a house and a life, and I just trusted, like you said in the book, and I just gave it all up, and it all worked out." And I'm like, damn. Now I have to apply what I taught, It was
She had
kind
to
of funny.
remind you who's really in charge.
Right. So I had
That
to
voice.
apply what I put in the book. I'm like, oh my God, now I'm being called to. So I did it and I put it up and it sold quickly. And I told the folks, yes, I was on tour. I went to Europe and then came back, never went home again. Had my place packed up, had movers take it all, and I never went back home. I was on tour and I didn't have
Oh,
time to go back. It was done. And it's the much the same way a house, a family, a marriage, a car. Sometimes when it's ready, we make the move and we can just tell, oh my God, it's like it was already done a long time ago, and I just caught on, or something. Wasn't that way for me. It was quick because I actually said to Spirit months before this happened, I'm on tour 6 weeks. I'm home 1 week. I never even see this place. And when I'm on tour, I'm earning money to pay every, the month. So none of it's of major value, really. I mean, it's working, but getting by. So I said, I'm going to make a bold statement, and that is, I'm giving it to you, God. I'm ready for the next leg of my tour, my life. And that's where it began. The seeds were planted. Months later, all of a sudden, boom! And I didn't put the two together immediately. But I'm saying this for your listeners too, that your viewers, because watch what you pray for, first of all. but but when you're feeling like more work than good is coming out of something, that's a sign of something. We should be able to see, especially when it's dealing with our soul's purpose. We should be able to see the perks, the benefits are outweighing, whether it's a relationship, partnership, the perks should outweigh the challenges, um, generally speaking. So that's what happened. And I ended up coming to Sedona. And eventually, it's like, are we a church? No, we're something else. We're something, it's spiritual. It isn't traditional, even New Thought church. We're not. So what are we? Well, I really believe in Christ consciousness. The way you worded it in the intro is beautiful because it's really our divine self.
mhm.
But are we a Sedona center? No, no. Because if I were living somewhere else, it would be there. It's global. And it is global because we stream out all over the world almost everything we do. And most everything I do is, strangely enough, is free. I don't know how I pay my rent because most everything we do is free. No, not everything, but honestly, there's workshops I do. We charge a minimal amount when I do workshops, but we try to provide weekly programs. I've done for years weekly live programs, and we've never charged. And again, I don't know how that happens, but it does. And it's not because I'm an advocate of only not charging. I'm not an advocate of anything when it comes to charging, not charging. There's a time and place for everything. You put together a workshop, it's right. Generally, you charge and so on. Um, so there's a time and place for all that, but we try to provide all that we can. And my view is that the world now, more than ever in history, is wanting and ready and even willing for a major ascension in consciousness, a major leap, quantum leap into new levels of thinking. And uh, I know that people like yourself play a part. I play a part. And I want to say real quick, it's not an advertisement, and you didn't ask me, but I'm making this statement for you, for me, and for everybody. I don't do programs anymore. I don't go on tour anymore. It's been years.
Mm.
A few years back, I announced I'm not going on tour anymore. And people were like, "What?" All the people in Dallas and Nashville and all over, they're saying, "What do you mean? You were coming here twice a year. You can't not." I said, "Something's coming to the world. There's going to be a lot of death, a lot of illness, and financial issues, and it's coming." And it came the next year as the pandemic and so on. I saw that coming, and I stopped touring the year before. Um, but I also don't do programs for I don't know how long, 10 years maybe, interviews and programs. And because a lot of times they're not wanting depth of tea. They're wanting to kind of skim the surface. And so I'm really, really busy. So I just don't do it. But I'm doing yours because there was a certain vibe I get, the guidance, a certain vibe, your email. Hey, there's a humility and a beauty to it all. Looked at some samples of your work, and I told my team, and they were like, no, but you don't do that. I go, I know, just tell her yes. No, but you don't do that. And I go, I know, just tell her yes, and let's work it out. Let's, I'll try to meet her once, and then we'll do the program. So there's a lot changing in the world, and I believe and I love to support people that are authentic. I don't just do things gratuitously. Someone could offer me a whatever $1,000 for a 2-minute interview, and I couldn't do it. It wouldn't be of interest. It's the depth, it's the quality, and I'm saying that not just about my standards. We all have to raise the bar. We can't think of ascending consciousness on this planet when we don't even stick up for that in our own lives. It's got to be. I don't care if you live in a one room studio, you can make it feel like heaven. Your relationship should
Absolutely.
feel glorious. Your car, the outside could have dents, but you know what? Put a prism on your mirror, get some color, get some rainbow, get some life and hope, a little affirmation on your dashboard, anything to anchor more of the spirit of God in everything you do. How you dress. I mean, everything should be like, I feel alive, and it should show. And this is not only in our external life environment, but the decisions we make.
I've got goosebumps because you're obviously speaking my language. And that's why I feel like it's so important for people out there. They're looking in their spare time, they're looking at a podcast, they're looking for something that's inspiring, that's motivating, that gives them a slightly different perspective, so that they can see the color in their life, so that they can see something joyful in what they're doing, because they have to do it anyway, whether it's a job or the relationship or the parenting or the paying the bills or the taxes. And to find people like you in your center, and you're online, so it's not like somebody has to travel far if they don't
Right.
live in the area, but they can find this spiritual depth, this spiritual awareness. You have 10 books. There's a wonderful range of the creativity, but it's all based in integrating spirit,
Yeah.
mind, and body in your life, in the reader's life, right here, right now, the moment they read it,
Right.
just like the woman who was talking to you on the phone. I love that we have this internet, this social media, all the different things to share these incredible ideas. It's
Yeah,
just
it's another way of reaching people. From the very first time they said, okay, we're going to do this. And they thought it was going to be, oh, so Michael, you got to get used to it because, you're used to audiences and that it just never mattered to me. I just adapt to almost everything. It's amazing. I'm so grateful that I can I just adapt. So I'm sitting here, even when I'm doing private sessions. So I do those every day as well as whatever else I do. But I do private sessions. You just sit here and you're staring at a box on top of your computer, a little black lens. And I've never really noticed it. You know, 30 years ago, we might have looked like we have, mental health issues to sit there and speak to a nothing, a little black box on you know, and I just adapted because even when the screens are off, some people the screens are off, you can't even see them at times, and yet I just adapt and go with it. But the world and the technology allows us to reach so many people, and I have weekly Zoom groups where you have whatever number of people, 100 or several hundred, whatever, 100, and you're talking, and it's obvious you're not in the room, and people say, "Oh, that's so cold." It isn't. I mean, it's in here. If you love
That's
people, it
true.
doesn't matter if there's one with their screen off or if it's 200 with their screens on, or it's in the room with you. Just got to get past the thoughts and opinions and judgments around those things and just get to the love. And it makes a difference. And the topics, yeah, you mentioned the books. It's kind of interesting. The theme is connecting more with God first, spirit, God, connecting more with God. Secondly, integrating that into yourself, your own life. And then third, bringing that to others, and I don't mean as a teacher, I mean
Right.
as a person. So there's only three relationships you can have in the world, and that is with God, with self, and others.
Mhm.
Um, Ultimately, we're all one, but God, self, and others is the way it feels like it breaks down on this planet. And most people don't have a connection with God, so they have an empty self. So they go to others to find themselves. They go to others and make others into their God, rather than allowing that flow God into self, into others. These are gone. They just do this desperate search for love, even the word love, happiness in other people, and that's codependence.
Mm.
So there is sort of a hidden but not hidden message, and that is there's this theme. It's a recurring theme, but it's the same in Buddhism.
Yeah.
It's the same three things in the 12-step program. All 12 steps are distilled down to God, self, and others. That's why you do your inventory and so forth, and you bring the program to others. So all the greatest teachings secretly have been sneaking in that it's all about God, self, and others, but nobody's really made it that obvious. Now, for my own theme of teaching, it's meaning the same trinity, but the trifecta, but it's in my context, it's connect more with God through prayer, meditation, communion, with whatever form you can, more humility and love relationship with God. Then let that change you. Bring that in. If you're talking God, but you're not becoming a better person, something's wrong with this picture, and it isn't God. So something's off. Um,
And
so
it's
God,
not God,
self,
right?
yeah, and it isn't on God's end. Now, I understand you may not know exactly what it means, but that's why I speak, and I'm so grateful you brought it up. The word integration, integrating it into your being, and some people, what does that mean? Well, so I meditate and I feel light. Now take that to the grocery store and remember that feeling you had and smile. That's enough for now. Just let that meditation this morning, your prayer this morning, let it make you smile. Let it be felt when you let someone in on the freeway that cuts in front of you. Let it affect you here so that you're happier, more joyous, but also more forgiving. And then in relation to others, it's kindness, and it is gifting people things now and then, paying somebody's bill at a toll or at a grocery line, if you have the funds. Um, Anything, picking people up when they fall, a kind word. And I believe that the presence of God can come through us and does come through us. We're like a channel of that, and it manifests all the way to this right here and now moment, which can take the form of a smile, paying somebody's tab, whatever, and even the form of putting your hand on their hand
Yeah.
when they're crying, when they're mourning. I believe in affection. I believe in the power of affection. Kindness is what I'm saying. Uh, um, it's an intimacy between souls that I see what's happening and I'm here. It doesn't always involve the hand. It could be on the phone for that matter, or on Zoom. I'm just talking about this spontaneous feeling. How can I be helpful today?
Yeah.
And just yesterday, I shared this because we were we had a luncheon meeting after our sacred Sunday service. And we have those services, 10 o'clock every Sunday, and they're incredible. Well, once a month, we gift all our employees and so on. We take them to dinner, and give them a thank you, a luncheon. We give them a thank you. And so it's really kind of beautiful. So it's our staff, our board, our volunteers and employees. So we take them, we sit down and we dine. Well, something happened. There was this guy who was a server, and he's coming over and he's really like, "Hey, nice to see you, sir." And it was a very nice guy, and he's just just perky. And people are like, "Wow, do you know him?" I said, "Well, I've seen him here." Well, what happened was the guy was on his first day on the job, and the boss was sitting in a booth watching him carefully, scrutinizing his every move. And he was trying to do a great job as a server. And there was this lady in a booth. Nobody else is aware of any of this, but I'm fairly sensitive and aware. And I see this girl in a booth. She eats a meal. She takes a few drinks, alcohol. I noticed, and she slips out on her bill. She splits. It's a higher end, nice restaurant, but she left. This guy came back and he's going, "Where is she?" And so he was going to get fired because this happened. He was going to be blamed that it happened. And I'm watching all, and I saw him just sit in a booth and just slump so helplessly, just hopelessly. It was such, and again, it's funny, nobody else is noticing, but I'm seeing this whole thing unfold. And I see the bosses over there at another booth watching this whole thing. So I saw him get up and take a sigh, like, he realizes that's all over. So I said, "So, hey, how's it going? We're ready to pay our bill, pay our bill." I said, "What's that?" And he goes, "Oh, it's another customer." I said, "No, here." And I paid the bill. I said, "Nobody needs to know. Pay her bill. Don't say a word. Pay her bill." Oh my God, the light comes on. I mean, I'm not wealthier at all at all. I don't, God, I'm not at all in that direction, right? But yet you do what you can. I mean, what was it? It might have been, I don't know, $50. $50 is a lot to me, to you, and to most people, but it's not. It made a life difference for him. He got that job. He's still there. This is a year ago, and he's still there. So you don't know. Some days you think you can't afford a smile,
Right.
but just try your best, find it. And if you can't find it, it means the well is dry and you're not connecting enough with God. You're running too much on you and your reserves, so you can't bring it to others. Got to go to the source.
Yeah.
It's a great saying in some of the religious science circles: God is my source, people are just my resource. So
Mhm.
God is my source of everything, income or whatever it is in life, my energy level, mine meaning any of us. That's the affirmation of affirmations. God is the source. People are the resource. Your boss gives you the money, but he's just a resource. The real source is God. Trust in God. Plug into God as often as you can. Regenerate, recharge your batteries, spiritual batteries, mental batteries, emotional batteries, and then you can handle more in life. People don't realize. Of course, they're tired. They're running on reserves. And we don't have to. There is another option, and it's God. So people say to me, "Where do you get your energy? You go days sometimes without sleep, and you can still do an interview, you can still do this or a workshop." I mean, my workshops sometimes in the old days, meaning 10 years ago when I had my retreat, it would be 12 hours because they asked me to keep going. I would go 12 hours, and then for 7 days or whatever number of days. And it doesn't phase me, because when you're in the zone, it's amazing how you feel. Like they say, time flies when you're having fun. It's the
Yeah.
same concept.
Yeah.
It's just that time and everything else becomes sort of less significant when you're plugged into God. And I'm not bragging that I'm more plugged in. All I know is that's my choice, is to be as plugged in as possible. And I'm sure there are days when I'm not as much as others. I'm sure there's moments decisions are made that aren't there, coming from that place as much as others. But that's my life intention, is just to live, walk, dance in the light of God.
And what you're talking about is that when you're not as plugged in as you have been or could be, there's this, it's like, wow, I'm really, feeling the weight on me today. Then we have this idea of what can I, what can I do? I do the yoga or the breathing or the Sudarshan Kriya or the Qigong or the lay down and take a nap.
Yeah, right.
Whatever it is that we know to do, because we know that there's something greater than that feeling or that, sense or
Yeah.
thought or emotion. I was thinking when you were talking, it just reminded me of that saying, where our attention goes, energy flows.
Mhm.
So most people, and it's a really beautiful saying. I believe it's true. I know Joe Dispenza talks a lot about that, and it's this idea though that we're putting our attention on our health or on our relationships or on our work or on our children or whatever that is, and this we sense and feel this energy, sometimes a healing energy. But what you were talking about is when our attention turns inward to source, when that's energy flowing in source, so it's going both directions. We're
Mhm.
receiving energy and energy is expanding out of us. If our attention in that sense, let's just say, if that attention is on spirit, it becomes our way of being, then we have more energy than we ever imagined we could have.
Right.
I
That's
mean, I
right.
have more energy now than I did in my 20s. I think,
Wow. Wow.
because like you said, I'm full, that top down effect. I am
Yeah.
full, and
You're more alive. You're more
yeah.
alive.
And
Yeah.
creative ideas. I know
Yeah.
do you find that too? Like the
Yeah.
creative energy, I can solve problems easier because I'm not getting upset at the little things, I'm resolving them.
Yeah.
There's
'Cause
so
you're walking in the light of God, therefore your path, your mind is lighter. And yes, that's creativity and so on. One thing I tell folks in the new thought community and spirituality, a lot of circles, there's this notion it's become very popular about the mind. It's all the mind is so powerful, and wherever your thoughts go, everything else will flow. And I actually correct that and say it's not your mind. People say it's your mind, and there are popular teachers saying it's the mind, mind, mind. But it isn't. The mind follows your beliefs.
mm,
So if we were using the body as a metaphor, think of heaven is there's up in the heavens, but think of the heavens as being up inside of yourself. So imagine that God is found here in the heavens above. Here's my human self, and here's the Trinity of God. One, two, three centers. The
right.
Trinity of God is with kingdom of heaven is within you. That's Jesus. So, you have this presence. That presence is always supposed to be downloading into the first center it reaches, which is my heart. The
Mm,
next center, solar plexus, navel, root center. So it flows, and I become an embodiment. I, being any of us, I become an embodiment of that flow of light of God.
mm,
And that makes total sense. However, the challenge, the problem is we have all kinds of obstacles in between where that flow enters and everywhere. There's this veil here that keeps the presence of God to be felt regularly, a veil, which is the word evil. It's not evil, it's a veil between God and us. So it's not evil that keeps us from God, it's a veil that we allow because of our judgments that we are unworthy of the presence of God. So that light of God is supposed to be able to pour into my heart all the time. When
mm,
it does what you just said, what is the heart? Creativity, love, compassion, forgiveness. Now my heart is, wow, I'm just feeling God's presence. Well, we're not out of danger yet because by the time it's trying to flow to the next center, there's more stuff,
mm,
judgments, judgments and just human stuff. And if it tries to flow to the next center, the emotional center, it's blocking it, getting blocked up in sadness, loss, despair, all our unhealthy and unhealed wounds.
yeah.
And even if it could flow through there, by the time it reaches our physical centers, health issues, tensions, blocks in the vertebra out of alignment, muscles that are fatigued, meridians that are off. And so light's trying to pour into this thing. And, I say that we're like light bulbs. The
Mm,
electricity is God flowing into the bulb. If a bulb is broken, you don't the light bulb is dead. That's when my body is dead enough, broken enough, like a bulb, smash it, it's dead. And that's like death. But before we die, sometimes the filament is shorting out, and that's when we're unhealthy in mind, body, or soul inside. So we can be healthy bulbs, but funnily enough, some of us are, 100 and something watt bulbs, and some of us are 20-watt bulbs. And if you try to put too much power into a 20-watt bulb, it'll blow the bulb. And it doesn't do much good to be a 120-watt bulb, 110-watt bulb, or 75-watt bulb if you don't allow the light to shine. I mean, what's the point?
That.
So that's one metaphor, is to see how the presence is supposed to be able to pour into our hearts. That's our beliefs. I know people are strong on the minds, but the mind is the solar plexus chakra. It's the one that has more to. I know we say mind is up here. In the metaphor of chakras, we use the mind as the solar plexus, which is known as the abdominal brain. So that's our secondary mind. Okay, it's considered our lower mind humanly. This is divine, but this is our lower mind and our higher mind and divine mind. So in our hearts could flow the most beautiful, sublime ideas, like a movie's coming to me, a poem is coming to me, just loving feelings for people is coming to me. But when it reaches the mind just chops it up, dissects it, analyzes it. I don't think you can afford that. How do you expect to do that? You never have succeeded when you tried this and that and the other. It just beats it up. So the mind is not always the best guide as people think it is. If the mind is misguided, how can it be a good guide? Especially since it judges and scrutinizes and so much, it doesn't allow, it picks at, it's the inner critic. Unless it's been trained, silence. Let's listen. God is speaking to my heart. My heart is now speaking to my mind. So just listen. Yeah, but shh. There's the voice of my dad again. There's the voice of my inner critic or what. Just try it out. Yeah, but that might not work. Shh, but it might. Let's just. Now I wrote a poem. Yeah, but it's probably not good. Shh, wait. I wrote it, I'm reading it, and it feels good. That's enough for me. This feeling in here is enough for me to say, you were not correct when you told me I could never write a poem. You were mistaken. So I'm going to retire you as my employed guide, my director of life, because you're triggered, man. You're hurting. But I will give you enough time to heal. I mean, I'm not abandoning you. I'm going to send you for some special training. It's called healing, and self-control. And then it can pour into our emotional center and into our lives. So that's this, this effortlessness. That said, you brought up your favorite title, that you're not going crazy, you're just waking up. Now that title says it all. But there's so much more. An advanced version of that book is the book I wrote called The Dark Night of the Soul. Because, and this is especially for your listeners and viewers, we all go through challenges in life, but challenges are not arbitrary and they're not they're not thrown at us by God. Here's a test for you. That's not the way this works. The bottom line is we can be holy beings as God created us to be, but we have misbeliefs. Those misbeliefs get tested, tried by fire. And those are what we call challenges in life. Now, in the old days, we would have written a story about it. They would have been called a hero in a story, a goddess story in mythology. Now it's just, oh, hey, how's it going, man? You, me, hey, how are you? Hey, Michael. And we forget how deep things were once, how sincere these deep initiations were once, however they were. And we just think oh yeah, going through this you're never just going through something. You can't pay a bill. Someone in your family is sick and you're scared they may pass. All this stuff, your job, these in the old days were considered tests on a path of an initiate who's becoming a god or goddess. That's how it was done. Now we just pass it all off. But in reality, first thing, realize all of this stuff in life, these are life's tests that I am meant to pass. Not only am I meant to pass, the whole game is rigged. I will pass. I only get to decide How soon? I can drag out my stuff about partnerships for 80 billion years if I want to, but I could also heal it in 8 minutes if I really want to. How
Yeah.
fast we move is up to us. Humans tend to love to learn the hard way, dragging things out and having to deal with that same kind of relationship 50 times, sometimes even having the same name as the last one. Sometimes we're not even so original to change names of the people we attract into our lives. It's kind of weird. You think people would just catch on a little faster. But here we are, and you're not going crazy, you're just waking up is an intro to a concept, and that is you think something's going wrong in your life. You think, because the going crazy is like the person who's in a marriage where they've got lots of cash, lots of money, 5 boats, 8 cars, and they're like, oh, my life's pretty good. And I'm saying, but the relationship might be very terrible and
Mm.
you can't imagine leaving. And what I'm saying is, you're not going crazy when you're thinking to leave. You were crazy already when you were there. When you have a job that you've hated for 20 years, who's sane and who's crazy? The one that leaves or the one that stays? So I have clients all these years going, Michael, everybody thinks I'm crazy to end this job or this relationship because I'm wealthy. And if I leave, they threaten I'm not going to get anything. I'm telling you, that's the same person. You were already crazy. Yeah, but they're saying they're crazy. Don't tell me what they're telling you. The people that tell you to stay in a marriage or job that you don't like, that's killing you, that's literally causing you cancer, man, that's crazy.
That's
You
crazy.
did the right thing when you said, hold it, bing, light bulb. I'm retiring everyone from the role I've given you to be my financer, to be my, I'm going to the value of God and me now. God is my love. God is my life. God is my source. It'll all be okay. And I'm not saying do something dangerous like leave half of an estate that was rightfully yours. Yes, you can do lawsuits and divorce and all that, but do it from the right state of mind.
Mm.
But that's kind of what that meant, that you're not going crazy. When you start questioning, I'm in a religion, I go to a practice of religion every Sunday, we sit and we're told how sinful we are. And we're also told the likelihood is you're going to hell because only a few people throughout history are good enough to actually make it to heaven. So I sit there kind of depressed going, well, I'm going to hell. I don't even know why I'm here. I'd probably feel better at a bar because at least, I could numb myself from my fears of going to hell. Your odds are better in Vegas. It's like, but do you think Vegas advertises and says the odds are really slim you're leaving this place with more money than you brought? Do you think
Right.
they're going to advertise that? Religion is at least telling you, they're showing you the odds are bad, and yet you still sit there. Go where you feel the presence of God. I don't care where that is. I don't care at all. The 12-step program is a more evolved path than many religions because not only does it tell you to connect with God, almost a healthy dependence on God, but it encourages you to look at yourself,
Mm.
highs and lows. And a lot of religions don't tell you, they just tell you you're a sinner, but they don't tell you how to look at that. What's that about? Where's that coming from? Let's heal that. So the program is really so much more evolved in so many ways. And a lot of people don't know, but the program was actually channeled by an individual, a couple individuals. The material was channeled through. A guy went to Edgar Casey
No.
for a reading, and Edgar Casey said, you're a channel and you're channeling this material and it's trying to come through. So Edgar Casey started the channeling of what's in the 12-step program, gave him a lot of the original material, but told him, you're a channel that can bring it through yourself. And the guy, Bill, went on to, and they don't advertise it because that sounds woo-woo to some people.
Sure.
And you don't need to know that he channeled the material because some people are going to get a little weird if their religion doesn't permit such things. I just think it's beautiful that this material, like A Course in Miracles, came through someone that happened to be tuned into the right frequency to receive something. That said, in wrapping that up, those little moments where you should leave that job, that relationship's not right. I mean, I know people that live in certain states or houses and have issues with allergens in that region, and they won't leave because, oh well, but my daughter lives here. Yeah, but you're near death all the time. Move. Well, but what about my daughter? Tell her to move too. Well, she refuses. Then say goodbye and, talk to her on Zoom or whatever. But don't live near death. Don't have tensions all the time at work. Oh, I have migraines. Why? Well, my job. Have you thought about changing jobs? Oh no, because in only 18 more years, I'm going to get retirement, like all for the wrong reasons. So I say you're not going crazy. You're just waking up. But that's the mild version of what's called the dark night of the soul.
Hmm.
Every so often, our soul does the following. It'll follow behind us, sweeping up crumbs we've left of lessons that we didn't complete. Pieces of, learnings and lessons and issues, unhealed wounds, resentments. We think we're kind of just moving through life, and it's sweeping. Every so often, the soul, hello, knock, knock. We turn around. What's up? Hi, I'm your soul, and I'm here to introduce you to all the stuff you haven't healed, but not a little bit. It's all that you have tried to leave behind, and I swept it up, scooped it up from the wake you were leaving, and it's called the dark night of the soul. So it's telling you, most people don't get this consciously. It's a subconscious thing, but your soul is kind of saying, this might hurt a little. You might feel a slight pinch. It's one of those, because for the next few years, you're going to be going through hell. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your relationship. The person from your job is going to take away your relationship in an affair. Finances are going to be threatened. You lose your house. It's when lots of things go wrong. Maybe not all of them.
Do you think it's like the lessons that we've had gently that we haven't dealt with? I
Mm,
mean, in other words, it's like, yeah, this is familiar, but I'm not going to deal with it right now. I'm going to
yeah,
go do that and
yeah,
this and the other. Or
that's
yeah,
right.
I know this is happening again, but if I just keep going and I put my blinders on, and then it all, like you said, it
Yeah,
all shows up with that knock knock. Guess what?
that's right. That's right. And there's no experience in life for the most part that's as painful as when we go through the dark night
Yeah,
of the soul.
yeah, because it's a lot.
It's intense. And some people will say, "Oh my God, Michael, you're right on it. You totally get it. Dark night. This I didn't know there's a name for it. Yeah, I've been experiencing that for like a week." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. It's not a bad weekend. It's not a bad week. It's not a bad month. Even a challenging year might not be the full-on dark night. It usually lasts a few years, at
Mm,
least a year usually. And I've known people that have been in it for several years. And here's one important thing. Don't take it personally if it's you that's going through it.
mm,
It's not God or the universe saying, we don't like you. This has to do with, it's a cycle that has come around, scooping stuff up, scooping the whole time it's waiting to come around again. It's scooping stuff up, and it's gathering all the unhealed wounds and soul level lessons to present them during a cycle. Once you hit a low in your life, meaning in cycles, once you hit a Saturn return, some people would call it, or whatever else, there's an appropriate cycle where all the pieces come together for a perfect storm and things start falling apart. Usually people go through the dark night of the soul at least once by the time they're 30, and at least a second time, usually in their 50s. But whether the timing is exact or not, or how many years it lasts, that's not important. Everybody goes through the dark night of the soul, and it does usually last a period, and it does usually hit several areas, not one area of your life. And
mm.
that's how you know: are you dealing with an issue? Are you dealing with a bad weekend? Look at that, and you'll know the difference. An issue, that's not necessarily the dark night. It's lasting, and it's several areas of my life are falling apart.
Mm.
And remember, you're not going crazy, you're just waking up. Well, doesn't feel that way to me right now. I know. There's a few things to remember when you're in the dark night. This too shall pass.
Yeah.
Don't take it personally.
Mm.
I would never wish the dark night on anyone, and yet there is no human experience you can have that takes you further in your growth. There's none. No workshop can make up for what the dark night can do for you. And You can't run from it. You can't hide. You can't even pray, God, make this go away. You're not supposed to.
Right.
In the dark night, you don't even know if prayer is valuable anymore because you've tried it and it's not working. So it really tests you. This is Jesus's 40 days, 40 nights in the desert, but he did everything in concentrated, timings. He didn't just do it, he didn't do it for years. Um, so human beings, it's a period of time. This is our going through the desert. This is our fasting from, it seems like things are being taken. But the third thing to remember when you're going through the dark night is that the things you said you were, I'm a college graduate, or I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a mom, a parent, or whatever, the things you think you are going to be tried by fire because you're going to be shown how. Are you a doctor because you have a license, a nurse because you have a license? So your house is going to burn down and there goes the certificate. That's the kind of stuff that happens. It's almost funny. Who am I? My certificate burned. Spirit's trying to say, are you a healer or do you do being a doctor?
Mm.
Are you really a healer? Now we're going to find out.
Mm.
You're a mom. Are you? Oh, yes, I'm a mom. How do you know? Well, I have good, healthy children and they get good grades. And then the soul, the universe goes, we have just the terrible dark night for you. This is going to be when your kids don't get good grades, they become drug addicts. You say you love your children. We're going to find out. If you love them after this test, then your love is real. If it's any bits that are not real, are going to get burned away.
Yeah.
And that's part of what's happening. Are you what you say you are, or are you just the doing level still? Now, this isn't God making you.
No,
My
God.
soul wants to become and not do anymore. It wants to become. Boom, and it's like, wow. It's so amazing. Again, I wouldn't wish it on someone because I know it's painful, but there is nothing that quite like it in terms of the effectiveness of changing us if we understand how to ride the wave.
Yeah.
If you come out of the dark night saying, I don't believe in anything anymore. I tried this and I tried that, and meditation didn't help me at all. And I don't even think there's a God, and people can't be trusted, and I'll never love again. If you come out of it with that, very sad
Yeah.
because your soul is sweeping up all those comments and all those beliefs and all those unhealed wounds, saying, we'll be seeing you in a few years. And it revisits again with all even greater intensity. So, one of the lessons from the dark night is to get us to integrate and become what we say we believed we were through our studies and certificates and so on.
I do. I think that's a beautiful way of looking at it is all the things that we say that we are, all the things that we say that we do. I am a doctor because that's what I do. I am a CEO. I am this. And the dark night really, it's definitely not God life challenging us. It's our soul agreement
That's right.
to really that self inquiry of who are you really? If that's
Right.
if that's your limited idea of who you think you are, let me show you.
Right.
Because everything I take away, it reminds me of Job, actually, now that I say that, everything I take away from you, you and I, meaning God, spirit, there nothing has been taken away except these ideas of who you think you are, these
Right.
ideas of what you look like, these ideas of your that
Right.
mask you're wearing. And it's like, don't rip my mask off, man.
Right.
Needed that.
Yes.
I needed everyone to see me that way. It's like, do
The
you
book of
really
Job is probably the first piece of literature that portrays the whole concept of the dark night of the soul. He had, right? It was
everything?
all taken away and he got back and then some.
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to look like. Keep your faith, push on through, you know, just do your best. I mean, you're going to have doubts and fears and cry tears but just hang in there the
Gnashing
best
of
you can.
teeth.
When
Yeah.
you come through the other side, man, it's incredible because all of a sudden, oh my God, everything opens up. Even in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, there's a line that really applies to the dark night of the soul. The Revelation's talking about the dark night of the planet, where
Mhm.
everything is going through hell and falling apart. But it's talking about us going through the dark night, and there's a line, and you will pray for death, and death will not come.
Oh, wow.
That's such a heavy, because I know I did, and everybody in the dark night, you will pray for death. You will want to give up, and death will not come means sadly that you have to endure this longer, which feels so like, isn't anyone aware of how much I'm hurting, but in reality it's a good affirmation. Death will not come means your destruction will not come. It has no power over you. Hang in there, you'll get to the other side. Job
Mm.
says, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, God, before this test, I I believed in you on one level, but now that it's all done, I know you.
Yeah,
Like something shifted. One was a superstitious belief in God
absolutely.
or in yourself or whatever. And now I totally get it. And the way you worded that a moment ago was brilliant, because if I have low self-worth, I don't care if you believe in past lives, it comes from there, your childhood, wherever, somehow, if I have low self-worth, I come into this world and I'm functioning in this world. By the time I get to a certain age, let's just say I'm now having serious dating in my 20s or teens or whenever it is. But let's say it's 20s. It could be in my 80s. I'm dating. And what happens is that person cheated on me. And then I end that and, we go somewhere else and have another relationship, and they're just non-committal and so on. Now, when I go to counseling 20 years after this is all happening and they want to know about me, and I just say, well, I'm just so mad at relationships, romance, one cheats and another one does this and another one non-committal. It's interesting because we actually think it's therapy about what they did to us.
Right.
What did
Absolutely.
they, like they're interviewing us, microphone. So what did you get from all this? What did they do to you? And they put the mic in front of you. Well, they made me feel low self-worth. I'm saying you already had low self-worth.
Yes.
And that's why you get these kinds of people coming into your life. So this is a major shift for some people. Some of your viewers or my viewers, they're going to be like, no, no, I like to be able to blame other people. So I don't like what you're saying, Michael.
I like my story. I'm
Yes,
I'm sticking to it.
but the bottom line is, has that worked for you? Is it really working, the blame game? And I'm not saying they didn't do anything that
Right.
was hurtful, that wasn't hurtful or immoral. Yes, they might have been selfish, hurtful, weak people. What we're talking about though is you. If you were coming to me to tell me about the horrible people you've had in your life, okay, fine. But when you want to heal, we have to move somewhere else. And it's from them to you.
Mm.
So I have to know, have you noticed that there's a recurring pattern? Well, no, because the pattern isn't the same. One cheated, one left, one wouldn't commit. They're not the same. They are. There's one pattern. They all bring up in you what? Low self-worth, undeservability. So what do you think is quicker? Working on getting them to change? Do we write them letters and say you need to change? Or is it going to be quicker to get them to change, or for you simply to work on the self-worth? And
Healing.
it's like, now, of course, it's annoying to hear that. I mean, it felt so much better to think it's them, because then I don't think that I have any part in it and I'm just an innocent victim of their behavior. But you have to take a breath, because otherwise the dark night's going to take you into this, and go drag you through it. So you can walk through the dark night, you can be dragged, but you're going. And I sit with this and say the common theme, my low self worth. I'm not valuing myself. So
Mhm.
when some creepy person out there who likes to take advantage of other people, whether they're conscious or subconsciously doing this, they can sense, they can see you coming from a mile away. If we believe that the proverbial used car salesman sees you from a mile away, why can't you believe dates also? People are not stupid. We all have psychic skills. We all have intuition or just senses of some kind, and they see you and they know they could take advantage of you in whatever way. And so you reel each other in. And it's sad because they're reeling in, another, victim of theirs into their, lair. And we're getting hooked because they gave me attention. They said, I'm the best looking person they've met. And you know what? For a person with low self worth, that
That's
feels
right.
pretty good, right?
Well, and I would just add to that 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 person that's reeling them in, I don't even think it's that for most of us. We're past the point of we can see a power play or this, but their thing, if we're so low self-worth, then theirs is something like they need to be in control or they need to manipulate.
Right.
They need to,
Right.
be needed. They need to be needed. And then that person's needing them. And it's a match made in heaven of attraction, but it's going to end badly because it's
Right.
feeding our fear
Right.
and not from that place that we talked about at the very beginning of this conversation, that love overflowing, love, joy, peace, and compassion that goes beyond our fear. And it's funny
Right.
that this has gone in this direction because I think of that quote from Job, which is, that which I feared the most has come upon me.
Yeah.
And it's like, everything that we fear, deep down in our human heart, the human self, we're like, I don't want people to see me as weak. I don't want people to see me as not enough. I don't want people to see me as sickly, whatever these things are that or as ugly, or as any of these things. And so that which I fear the most has come upon me. That kind of just tracked in my head, like, that's a dark night of the soul saying that what you fear the most. If you want to grow in this lifetime and not do Groundhog Day, then
Right.
it's going to come up and insist that you turn around
Right.
and look at it and
Right.
break you down from all of those fears
Right.
and break
Exactly.
it all down. And otherwise, you get to just keep doing it again and again, not out of God not loving us or people not loving
Yep.
us, but it's the love from ourselves, the love of ourselves.
It, it's interesting again. It's a codependence, and it's an unhealthy manifestation of abuse of some kind or another, one to level or another. And both people are involved. So the person hooking you into their lair couldn't do that if they were totally healthy and functional. They wouldn't need to. They need to believe they have some sort of power over you because they also have issues with value and self worth.
Yeah.
But when you have those issues, you're going to act it out in one of two ways. I can cure mine by being in control, or I deserve to be controlled. It depends on whether you decide to assert your hurt feelings or go the passive route. But either way, it's a marriage made in hell. It's a match made in hell, and it's totally dysfunctional. And when somebody decides to break the trance, you're not going crazy. You're actually waking up. But I
Waking
can't believe I would be willing to end this. I mean, I might grow old alone.
yeah.
Just this is you have more than just you involved here. God can take care of this with you.
Yeah.
Let God become your guide, your healer. So a lot of what I do, brings us back to that point. And something else, when you said that which I fear has come, right? This
Mhm.
is interesting. Look at how the average person reads it. All that I feared has come. That's a very obvious linear statement. All that I feared has come. Now, watch this. Or is it, because what we assume is all that I feared has come, meaning these things that are happening in my life are causing me fear, but they're not. Your fears brought them about.
Yeah.
We think the other way around. We think that if I think certain thoughts, it's going to fix my life. But if your beliefs are contrary to your thinking, you can sit there and think and repeat and recite, and you can have a rubber band snapping and doing affirmation. I'm wealthy. I'm wealthy. But in your beliefs, if you're unworthy, it's not going to happen. So you'll be conflicted. Your thinking and your feeling will be conflicted with each other. What I need to do is really hone in on my beliefs and then bring them down into my thinking, my emotions, and my manifestations, my words and my actions. Living in harmony, walking in balance, and walking in harmony with God. It really is. God's will is that no soul shall perish. Then why am I perishing? What did God forget? You know? No, I have unhealed wounds. Everything that comes to us is about unhealed wounds. At the end of the day, There isn't coincidence, accidental. The stork didn't drop the wrong, your lessons into my life, the stork that delivers the babies. God didn't give me your lessons by accident, my next door neighbor's karma by accident. These are exactly proportionate. This is me that I'm facing each day. And some people will, well, my life's pretty good. Congrats. That means, that some things have worked out in the past, and you're, because everything is either the gifts or the challenges. When a person tells me about the relationships, there's two kinds: karmic relationships, gifting relationships.
Mhm.
And somebody goes, oh, well, I want more of those. You don't order them on Amazon. This is the bad news for us.
Yeah.
All of them are going to be karmic. Almost all are karmic relationships. Almost all of them, even the ones that start off good. Well, no, I had one that was really great for 10 years, and then it went south because it was karmic, or it wouldn't have gone south.
Yeah.
They're all karmic. They're always our low beliefs are that we're unworthy, we're unlovable. I mean, we're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. We left heaven. We're on this planet of karma and limitation and death and disease and war. Something's wrong with this picture. And it isn't God that did it. We did. We miscreated that which God created. Now, the good news is you can't actually change what God creates. You can only think you did. So this is a mass hallucination of arrogant people that are trying to say we're unlovable, and I don't know, I like you. We're kind of hitting it off, and there's an attraction there. But deep down, I'm watching you because I know that you're not going to stay with me. You're too pretty. You're going to leave me like all pretty
Like
girlfriend
all
did
the other ones.
when I was 15. I signed you up, man. You're going to get slotted into this karmic situation. I'm either going to use you as a positive for a while, or we're going to go straight negative. But you're going to end up negative one way or the other. You're either the nice person that dumped me or the person that never liked me. That's how pessimistic it can get. But there's something called gifting. Well, Michael, what about those? Here's the bad news, but it's good news. You can have gifting relationships, but only by learning what you need to learn from the karmic ones: love, forgiveness. I'm not saying pretend they didn't hurt you. I'm saying look at it, bid them farewell, forgive them, but then look at your own patterns behind it. When you forgive them and you forgive yourself, everything turns into a gifting relationship. A Course in Miracles will call this a um, dysfunctional codependent relationship into a holy relationship.
Oh, I love that.
And now that's like to your children: I have no more agendas. I'm retiring. You don't need to have straight A's. You don't need to do this. Your partner doesn't have to remember Valentine's or else they're a failure. It's I love you no matter what. If I still would like to go out for dinner on Valentine's Day, great. Then we go out and we do that. If you forgot, I don't get all devastated, because what that means is I'm so small inside that I can't afford you to forget Valentine's, because it devastates me. That's how small I am. Do you think you'd have walked up to Jesus and said, oh, listen, I forgot your birthday last week? You think he would have answered and said, I haven't been the same since?
I'm
I was barely
devastated.
able, yeah, I was barely able to function because nobody, said happy birthday. I mean, the more we feel the presence of God from the heavens, God into our being, and we align God's will, not my will, more of thee, less of me, as St. Francis puts it, the more we become an integrated example. And it doesn't end there. It's got to come into the world.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just a detached mystic. Congratulations.
Right.
You live in a cave somewhere. Congratulations. You're just so damn spiritual that you're beyond everybody, and you just sit there contemplating your navel, and congratulations.
Yeah.
You got to bring it.
Yes.
How did you change someone's life today? And we should all be able to end the day, any day of our lives, believing that we did something and it made a difference. I don't care what it was. If you
Right.
didn't happen to see anybody, you live out in the boonies and nobody's around. There was a bird that fell from the sky and you put it back up in its nest. There's something, even prayers,
I was just
some
gonna say,
good.
even a
Yeah,
blessing, just
yeah.
blessing. Whoever comes into your thought, it's a blessing and a gift, and not a judgment and a negative, a fear. It's like, oh wow, that's what you, and that is the unseen effect, because we are
You
one. It's
even blessings that you bring people, and it changes their life, it changes their day.
we're connected whether
Right,
we see each other or not. We're connected in spirit, so that that positive thought about anyone, about everyone, is an
right,
activity. It's a doing, however subtle it is. It's a
right.
beautiful blessing. I love that.
Exactly, and that's not to say become rescuers.
Oh
There's a
no.
difference. There's a difference. Wanting to make a difference in people's lives and being a rescuer are not the same. The wanting to make a difference, first of all, means I'm waiting for guidance that I should be doing, saying anything. In other words, I don't just come from my head. It needs to feel like for me, it's an inspiration. I get an inspiration to do something. So it starts as an inspiration when it's real. Secondly, there's no conditions we put to it. We don't do something and we're standing around waiting for gratitude or we're waiting for praise, or you do it because it's who you are. It's what you're about. Um, in rescuing, there's no boundaries, and so therefore I do without even knowing if it's what I'm supposed to be doing. Also, I have all kinds of agendas, all kinds of
Oh
reasons I'm
yeah.
doing it, hidden agendas or not so hidden. But lastly, let me say, when we're rescuing, this is important. If I can't afford it, what I'm doing for you physically, emotionally, energetically, I'm rescuing. As soon
Mhm.
as I am past my own bounds of what I've got, what I can afford, if I've got just enough money for rent and you need even a dollar from me, technically I don't have it. And I'm sorry, but I can't give that to you because I'm to the dollar rent. So that means I can't afford it. That doesn't mean I affirm I can't afford. I know that I'm prosperous. God's my source. But right now, that doesn't work for me. If you leave saying, well, you do these shows and you have this broadcast where you interview people and you're talking about love and abundance and you won't give me, see, they're going to try the game of guilt and shame, which is not healthy of them. It's their problem, their issue. If I believe them, it's now my issue. If I
Yeah.
take it on and get guilted into, fine, here's my rent money, now I don't have a house, that's not right. Jesus says in the Course in Miracles, I would never ask you to do anything that would harm yourself or someone else. When I
Mm.
told you, when someone asks for your coat, give them your shirt as well, he's saying that was misinterpreted and misunderstood. It never meant to give more than you can afford, physically, energetic. I use the words, this is my part now added. He means physically, energetically. So I would love to be able to help you. And if you call me at 3 in the morning, okay, no problem. I would probably, let's go. I'm going to just work with you right now. However, if I only went to bed an hour ago and I get up in 2 hours for a flight, and if I believe I really need the sleep, I might have to tell you no, because I should not go past my energetic, emotional, financial, whatever boundaries, limits.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you do that, you'll know you've slipped into being a rescuer because you're allowing
Mm.
something to be in your life that's not in your best interest. It is not selfish to have healthy boundaries. It's actually selfish in a way to not have healthy boundaries because your ego's wanting to be selfish by getting praise or whatever it is from them.
Yeah, you just said something really beautiful, which I never thought, had the concept before. And that is, when we've helped someone or done something that someone's asked, we fulfilled their request. But if we tell that story about it, that, oh, and I did this, and
Right.
then, and I can't believe they asked me. And so,
Oh, yeah.
I was the hero and I did it, but it's like, no, no, no. Like that would have been a big fat no, I can't do that, because, and to be really in touch with what we are able to do, and then why we would want to do it and why we wouldn't want to do it. And like you
Right.
said, we've got to have both sides and be strong in it. If they're going to turn around and blame us, we have to
Right.
say, this is my truth right now. This is where I'm at. This is how I have to be to
Right.
love myself and you, whether it's my ability to help you or not help you. Because if I'm in love helping you, I won't have a story about how great I am or about how hard it was to do this deed. There's just love behind it. And if I if I can't help you, same thing. There's just love behind it, not that I refuse on the basis of this or that or the other. So,
Yeah. You
gosh, that's
know,
so
the
beautiful.
more we plug into God and then take care of ourselves and honor ourselves, the more we will actually have to give others. Too often, we're going to others to find ourselves, to find our value. Oh, I got so much gratitude from them because I give so much. Oh, my children always tell me I'm the best mother, and that's why I know I'm the best mother because they're always praising me. As soon as they stop praising, there's a disturbance in the forest. You're not getting your ego strokes. The more we plug in and the more we honor ourselves and value ourselves, the more we're going to have to be able to give others. So the relationship with God and self fills us up and our cup runneth over and can be brought to others in whatever form that's going to be.
Well, that's exactly where we started, right?
Yeah.
Exactly where we started this conversation. So it's a perfect place to end because ultimately it's the truth of probably everything that we talk about is that. And
Yeah.
you said it very simply: relationship with God, relationship with self, relationship with others, in that, and not just the visual, that top down, out effect. And it's just so, so beautiful, Michael. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. God bless you. And you're
Well, I feel like we have
beautiful.
so much to talk about. We're gonna have to do another whole thing on relationships, because I know you've written at least 3 books on relationships, right?
Right on.
At
Yeah.
least, I know. It's really fun to hear you talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm
Love it.
sure very healing for people, including myself. At some point, we just wanna get it.
Yeah.
I just wanna be love and be that place where I can see clearly. What did you call it? A gifting relationship?
Yeah. Karmic or gifting.
Gifting, and I feel like in my life right now, I just feel all these gifting relationships, the little ones, the people, the grocer, the waiter, like you mentioned earlier, all the people, it's just these beautiful exchanges. And
Yeah.
it's like every day is a special day, even when nothing seems to have happened.
But when you have somebody, like you said, the grocer, the waiter, when you have somebody that brings you light today, and they're really kind, and they see you, or you're having some doubts about a change in your life, and for some reason, coincidentally, they drop a comment to you that, wow, you have to have earned that in your goodness somewhere. It's not
Mm,
an accident that this person's in front of you saying something that turns your life around, or even just helps you make a decision. That's a gift, and it is not arrogant to own that and say, "Oh my God, that's a mirror that I do value myself somewhere." And thank God. And you could say it's God, a messenger of God, sure,
yeah.
but God's giving you that messenger for a reason. When I was a kid and already knowing things and feeling things, and then but the world not getting it and the people around me not getting, family and all that stuff, there were moments, there were a couple of angels that, living angels, that God spoke through, and both just simple comments. One was my godmother, who would every so often say something. Another was a random meeting with somebody. And who are you? And oh, hi, Michael. And I'm a kid, you know, there's something about you and you're going to do big things in the world. I mean, why would this woman I've never met stop me in a restaurant and tell me this?
Mm,
Yes, these are blips of light from God, but those people also were channels in that moment, and they are going to be getting gifts for what they did for me that day.
mm,
And then I passing on those gifts of encouragement to people. It changes. Why am I telling you this 50 or 40 years later, 50 years later? Why am I even able to tell you this story? Because it was meaningful.
yeah.
That means if one of those people, wherever, I don't even know who the one woman was, somewhere they're out there and they've passed on to the other side, they're actually, it's adding feathers to their wings for me to even talk about them and feel appreciation for them.
Yeah.
So our good gifting lives are basically, those lives are made up of the good we've brought, the good we've, you know, shared with others. So it is always beautiful. Again, I'm not talking about rescuing.
Yeah.
I'm talking about true light work where I'm bringing through that essence. The word light work, according to whatever they call Wikipedia or the internet, or they say that I'm the one who coined that phrase online. They say that, and what it meant was way back in the '80s. I think of God as light, and so we anchor the light of God, and I call that light work. So I
Mm,
kind of just put it together that way, and it became now a buzz phrase, which is cool.
yeah.
But when I said it, now today people are going, "Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the goddess Venus channeling, and I'm here to tell you that the word light work, what it means. We're all," and they start telling people light worker means that you're working with cosmic energy and frequencies. And I'm like, wait a minute. I made up the word. I'll tell you what it is. Don't leave God out of the definition. Don't tell me it's about you being an amazing channel. I made it up. I get to say something. If you leave God out, it isn't light work.
Mm,
God is the capital L light in the work. So don't tell me it's about your amazing channeling. Please be humble enough to say, it is about God. The light work is to work at anchoring the light of God in our lives for
mm,
ourselves, for God, for self, and for others. It's this beautiful grid system that we create of goodness. And once that happens, all the good that we bring, one day the plug gets plugged in and the whole tree lights up. And you'll see all the miracles and all the goodness we've ever done. One day that'll happen where there is nothing to contrast it. No more karma, no more lessons, no more dark nights of the soul.
that's beautiful, Michael. I was like, just tell us how you really feel, Michael. We don't get it. There's no
Yeah.
passion in your voice. I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes, I think, so I jokingly say, I think it's when you get this old, you don't care anymore.
No,
you just,
clearly, yeah.
you
My son
just
will
blurt
be
things
like,
out how
"Stop
you're
doing
feeling.
that." I'm like, "No, why would I? It feels good."
Right. Oh, so thank you so much. God bless you for having me on. I have, books and things, and I teach at the Global Center for Christ Consciousness here in Sedona regularly, but I have programs online and people can take classes or hundreds of free videos in our YouTube channel, and they're playlisted. So you can go, listen only to codependence, or one's about healing, one's about boundaries, psychology kinds of topics, spiritual guidance topics. There's all kinds of playlists. So a person can easily navigate and go, that seems like a topic of interest to me.
Yeah, it's really fun. I've been watching you for a little while now from a friend of mine in the UK. And one of my favorite things is that you ask your audience what they want to talk about today, and then you just riff on that. And it's really fun watching you be passionate and integrate sort of these things that they would like to talk about. So I do think our viewers would have a great time finding you there. They can find you on your website, michaelmirdad.com, and the Global Center for Christ Consciousness in Sedona. That's both YouTube channels and websites. There's
Yeah.
just a lot there, and you shared a lot with us today. It's really, really beautiful. I'm so grateful for you. And
Nice to be with you.
I
Thank you.
just tell everyone, I just hope that this week they laugh, love, and live enlightened, live in the light every single day.
Wow.
Namaste.
So beautiful. Thank you.